Shoots. It's time!
It's time for the Fanatic Flyers pregame show on the Flyers Broadcast Network. Here's Jason Martinez, Brian Smith, and Chris Terrian.
That's right. It is time for Philadelphia Flyers hockey as the Flyers get set to take on the New Jersey Devils and keep their playoff hopes alive. Jason Martinez, Chris Terrian, and Brian Smith to get you ready for this game. Before we get to the Devils, though, the first question for Chris Terrian as we honor the Flyer career of Wayne Simmonds tonight. We look back at Simmer. Bundy, what are your remembrances of covering Wayne Simmonds as a member of the traveling party? Just one of the all-time good guys.
So, you know what, Jason, that's an interesting point. We interviewed him before, so I did a pre-recorded interview on Snow the Goalie. I actually told Wayne Simmonds, as I was going through the end of my career with hockey and I shifted into broadcasting, I told Simmer today how important that was for me to be able to have a guy like him to rely on, to be able to just to look down the bench and say, hey, Simmer, can I get you at the end of the first? You know what? That guy never said no to me one single time, not once.
Yep.
Saw him with bloody knuckles, busted up feet, whatever else it was, and he was always there present. One of the really, truly, and I told him that. I said, you were a great hockey player. You had two-prong attack to your game with offense and fists of fury when needed. But more importantly, you're a better person. And that's an awful lot to be a better person than he was a hockey player.
Yeah.
A well-deserved. They don't do this with a lot of people, but certainly Wayne, for all he's done here, a well-deserved night for him. Absolutely. And someone said, who are your two favorite Flyers all time? Mark Howe and Wayne Simmonds.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, you look at the circumstances when he departed, and Flyers weren't not in a situation where they're going to make the playoffs, moving assets, and I think if the team had been better then, I'm not sure he would have ever left here. But it was good that he got to extend that career a few years beyond here.
Yeah, and that was really the unfortunate part with Wayne, right? Is his contract was probably a year longer than initially than what you'd want, even though you're getting the extra year. But he ran out of miles, right, for how hard he played. A very natural progression when you watch a guy like Wayne Simmonds play the way he does. I mean, when you play like that every night, you're asking your body to do an awful lot for you. And he embodied very much what playing sports in Philadelphia is all about.
Yeah, and I can second. Anytime I asked for Wayne Simmonds in an off-ice interview, he came in, he gave you honest. He played the game honestly. Came in the league, wasn't the greatest skater, but just a self-made player and one of the toughest pound-for-pound guys.
Yep. We talked about
league.
that.
Yeah.
Just a great guy. Really happy for him. A well-deserved night, and he's going to read off the lineup for the team, and he's going to drop the puck tonight. So Flyers, for any additional motivation, they've got it tonight in the form of number 17, Wayne Simmonds, calling it off before the game and then dropping the puck.
Yeah, great stuff with Wayne Simmonds here tonight. Great to see him as well. But it is the Flyers Devil business to be taken care of tonight. Bundy, when you look at the situation, Flyers need help, multiple areas of help to get in. But the only thing they can control is the 2 points that are up for grabs over the next 60 minutes of hockey that it's going to kick off here in just about 25 minutes. But you got to make sure you get the win tonight to even make the math try and work. I have to focus on that, and I guess that Rangers game is a good game to lean back on and how they played most of this season.
Yeah, and the Rangers actually did the Flyers a bit of a favor, and the other teams behind them as well, beating the Islanders in overtime, but the Islanders still get a point. This is a game here tonight. I mean, the Flyers, where you're looking at it, there's going to be no satisfaction in 1 point in overtime. They need, to be quite honest with you, just to be absolutely sure, they need 2 games, 4 points in regulation. And there's no other brewing of the stew than that. That's it. They just need 2 wins in the 60-minute frame.
Yep, that's all they can take care of. They probably need 3 other teams to lose 2 out of 3. I think that actually would give them a cushion if that happened. But just again, taking care of your own business. It is interesting to me how they're able to just. It almost seemed like they flipped the switch against the Rangers. Like you wonder where that game was for the 8 games previous to that. But
starting to wonder a little bit now.
Way hockey, funny how hockey is like that sometimes.
Well, I mean, I don't think it should be that funny because I don't really find a whole lot of 8-game losing streaks funny as you enter the beginning of April.
Is a better word.
Yeah, right. That is a better one. But yeah, I mean, and then like who'd have thought, right? They're going to go out and just take it to the Rangers and and win in a dominant form. But listen, if you can find any momentum, and it may be too late, it may be too late because it's no longer in their hands. But at the same time, why not finish it off on a high note? It's certainly a good way to get started again. If you're going to win 3 in a row, you got the hardest one based on the standings looking at it, and you played a good enough game that you should be able to carry that momentum, into the Jersey here tonight, and then, Washington Tuesday, which no one's looking at right yet. One game at a time. It's like you don't have control, but you can play good hockey and make it interesting with getting 4 points.
Buddy, how can a team flip the script like that over the 8 games over against, inferior opponents, and all of a sudden they go back? I mean, all 4 goals come off transition. All 4 goals, they had traffic going to the net. Like, that Brink goal does not happen if when Poehling drops it off, he doesn't drive the net hard, because then Keandre Miller's not going there and getting that deflection. They're driving that. It's kind of what they did all year, and then all of a sudden, they hadn't done it in a while, struggling to score as a result, and then boom, you got 4 transition goals against the Rangers, you win 4-1. I mean, how does that even take place? Like, what's the...
I'll be honest
crazy.
with you, we've talked during the year, right, about momentum swings in this league and teams that go up and they ride them. Like, how many times? I mean, I'm not going to say it again. Flyers lose 8 in a row, and they go win 6 in a row, and then someone else does the same thing. It goes on all over the league.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just one team. I remember before you'd win 2, maybe lose 2, win 1, lose 1, win 3, lose 1, and at the end of the day, it still stacks the standings the same way as if you're a top 4 team in the conference. But the way they do it now, it's just, I don't know why. I wonder if it's because of the open market where the players essentially, when GMs pick them, it goes like shopping, right? If everyone's got kind of similar things and similar talent, it becomes a confidence thing for a team. I mean, there's no way the Flyers should get smashed to Montreal 9-3 and then come back and beat the Rangers 4-1. That doesn't make any sense.
Logic, yeah.
But you know what? The Rangers stunk too. Like, if that's not the New York Rangers that you've seen most of the year. They had a bad game. They struggled again today to even score goals. They came back against the Islanders, and then they lost the game before that. So they were kind of on the downswing a little bit too. And you know what's interesting? Because I'll tell you what, if you're Peter Laviolette, you don't want his team kind of having the wheels come off like the Flyers did 8 games ago. The difference is that they're safely in the playoffs, and the Flyers are hoping and praying that things go their way while they win at the same time.
Just looking at the overall game in New York, Noah Cates continuing to, kind of just come on the scene here over these last few games. A little bit of what we saw last year. Curious what you see in his game, and certainly when some of the other guys weren't getting the scoring done, he was at least trying to chip in some things, although it didn't get the Flyers many points.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's been hurt. He had I think they were expecting him to kind of take off from where he was last year, and it didn't happen. It took him a while to get acclimated again after coming back from injury. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of like Sean Couturier light. Going back 8 years ago, right? Let's take the difference off. He's not a fleet of feet, and he's a guy to me that's going to have to rely on his positioning and his competitiveness. He's done a much better job of that, guys, the last 3 or 4 games. And he's been active. He's been trying to make a difference. And sometimes that takes a player an understanding that, it's not just going to come to you every night. You've got to be a difference maker. And he's been a guy that's willing to, to make it a little bit hard on goalies or make, push the pace on defensemen, take them wide, make difficult plays. And that's how you take a jump forward and you become a better player.
It's the anticipatory skills for players that aren't the fastest skaters, right, Bundy? Like, kind of anticipate reading the play, being in the right spot to affect it.
Yeah, and it's not like there's a guy that's 2 seconds faster when you went down the ice. It's not, but when you're talking about a fraction of time and certain things, that's why those guys, and Couturier is a great example. He's never been a fleet of feet, but positionally sound and being able to go in transition or make that quick play in a transition is just as beneficial sometimes.
When you, again, the whole situation with the goaltending, it was a tough situation with Sam Ersson. The Flyers weren't getting some saves. He's able to turn it on a little bit in New York. And I feel between that and scoring the first goal, it almost seems for some reason to be more important this time of year than it has been earlier this year. Flyers were coming back from deficits earlier this year, but haven't been able to during that streak. But Sam apparently got his confidence back pretty much in a big way in that Ranger game, and they're going to need that here over these next 2 games, assuming he gets both of them.
We're going to find out what that Ranger game was today, because if you carry the momentum, listen, it might have been a mirage, right? Like, it might have been one of those games where New York's like, oh, we're playing the Flyers. But I don't believe that, because I think the Rangers could have solidified number one overall, right, in the conference
throughout the league.
Throughout the league, right.
Yeah.
So, again, you just lost to the Flyers. So, obviously, they weren't ready to play. And again, I think for the Flyers, like, being where they were, getting that win like that is a lot more significant than actually doing it in a way where you're not garnering, you're not getting yourself back up, or you're playing a team that's lesser than them and you have the Rangers on standby. Play them first, because that's where the game had to come from. And then that's how you get momentum for the Devils in Washington. That was the Flyers' first division win in the 2024 calendar year.
Since December 19th over the Devils.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's
11 straight. That's insane.
4 months,
yeah. And you play most of your division games in the second half of the season as well.
Of course. Yeah.
Let's take a timeout. When we come back, I want to ask Bundy about Garnet Hathaway and what it's like dealing with players that are unrelenting and just being a needle, because he is that. Stay tuned. It's Flyers-Devils. Must win for the Flyers. That's not an overstatement. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. It's Flyers game day as the Flyers get set to take on the New Jersey Devils. Only 2 games left. We're here on April 13th. Where's the season gone? Well, it's down to these 2 for the Flyers and a little bit of help to try and make the NHL postseason. And Bundy, I mentioned Garnet Hathaway before the break, and I think we saw him in very Hathaway-type form in that Ranger game, just constantly crowding the goaltender. Smitty had pointed it out that he kind of tangled at the end of a play with Jonathan Quick and then just sat there and kind of stood over him after the whistle. And he does these things, I think, on purpose. And when you play against a player that is just always, it's like, geez, will you just stop? It just becomes so annoying. How can that affect the opponent? And how much does a player like Hathaway read that it is affecting the opponent, and therefore he's going to keep doing it even more?
Yeah, when you get guys continually yelling at you or going after you, you're doing your job. And, and again, like in the game that the league that we're in today, there's a lot of guys like Hathaway when I played. Like, every team had a couple of them, right? Except they'd have to answer the bell. There's a lot more fighting. And nowadays, you can really disrupt guys because there's not as much fighting that goes on where you're going to have to answer for it. So I love that he does it. I think it's good. It is absolutely planned. But he's a disruptor. And believe me, when you're just focused on hockey out there and you're trying to play your game, and there's a guy that does that, it can get in your wheelhouse, and it can bother you and distract you from what your job is. And that's what he does. That's what he does. And there's still room for guys like that. There may not be room for the guy who can just, all he can bring is fighting in the league, but there's still room for agitators, guys that can disrupt the flow of a game. And I think at times this year he's done a very good job of it. Certainly a guy I'd love to have as a teammate.
Yeah, I mean, it fits in with the idea of, defense first mentality and just trying to disrupt the offense the other way, and just having somebody there to get you off your game, I guess, can support something like that, if nothing else. It's just a matter of just going in there and being annoying enough to the point where you got people thinking about you and not about what's going on.
Yeah, but I mean, on the other side of it, if your team doesn't like it, wait till he gets a puck and run him.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do something about it clean too. I mean, but
yeah, they got a guy in Jacob Trouba that did nothing about it in that game.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. He does an awful lot in other games, but yeah, I mean, I didn't see any Ranger do anything in that game. And you know what? There's a lot of teams that say, oh, if this team didn't stick up for that. It happens every night. Some nights during the year where a guy does something and people don't respond, but you can't always respond.
Right,
It's not like, like they said, the Flyer goalie got run against Montreal. He didn't get run. He fell into him. And then everyone's like, well, why didn't they just brawl him? It just depends, what the situation is. But Hathaway makes you think about other things other than getting the puck out of the zone, and that's disruptive, and that's what he does well.
Yeah, Barclay Goodrow actually did something about it, but it was illegal, and he ended up with a double minor.
Yes.
That's another part of the point, right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, guys. It's just an absolute pain in the rear end to play against and unrelenting. Bundy, it's the Devils tonight. They're playing the string out. They've got no pressure in their last couple of games. They're just flying all over the place, freewheeling out there. Their playoff ticket is expired at this point, but that does make a team dangerous. But how do you mitigate that when you're playing against a team that is playing out the string? Is there anything you can do to kind of go tighten them up in some kind of way? I just don't know that you can, because there's just a couple of games left for them, and that's it. And they know it.
Yeah, and again, and I think if you look at the game against Toronto the other night they played, 6-5 win, I mean, that's the kind of game they're going to want to play tonight. The Flyers have to discourage that because they have too much skill over there that if they are allowed to freewheel, they can hurt you. Where the Devils are weak, I find, are on their back end and their goaltending. And if you can hem them in their zone, put the work in yourself, and force them to do things that they're not going to want to do with 3 days left in the regular season, or 4 days, whatever it is, then that's to your benefit. Don't worry about how they want to play. I know how they're going to play. It doesn't matter what they do. It's what the Flyers do. And if I'm the coach tonight, I'm telling guys, clamp down like you did in the neutral zone. Do a good job. Do not turn the puck over, and take it to them in the offensive zone, because I don't think that their D are going to want to pay the price, and their goaltenders, they haven't been very good all year.
Yeah, it's Kokkonen tonight too. It's not even Jake Allen.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess that was, for a lot of folks, the rub for the Montreal game was, the defensive zone coverage was just a little bit weak. It wasn't
a little bit. It was a lot weak. It was. Yeah, it's okay.
Not typical Flyers hockey this year, and they were able to bounce right back and kind of fix that really against New York. And it was just a mentality thing more than anything.
100%. And that's why, we're saying, like, what a way to flip the script and to get 2 points like that no one saw coming. And that's why it was such a beneficial victory. And again, I'm looking at momentum. How does that momentum carry into tonight? The Devils are going to want to pad their points. That's what they're going to want to do. They got a lot of skill guys. They make other guys better when you give them time and space. The goal for the team tonight is to take away that time and space.
The thing is, I think the biggest difference between the Montreal game and the game against the Rangers was the neutral zone and how they made teams enter the zone. That kind of sets things up. Travis Konechny had a really good night the other night, Bundy. Mm-hmm. We know that since he came back from the injury, he hasn't been quite the same. He's got some decent point totals. But he looked really good the other night. I thought he was really patient in the game in the way he attacked it. Made a great defensive play on his goal by stripping Zibanejad of that shot opportunity from a really good spot. And Konechny's got to be the guy again. I mean, he just has to be. He's the team's most dangerous player out there, and he's going to have to be the guy that leads the way no matter what. Yeah,
he was their most effective and best player the other night, and he had not been that in a lot of previous games. He'd been invisible like a lot of other guys, and that happens. But what I will say is that I thought that he was really, really locked in the other night against the Rangers. I mean, that beautiful far side shot that he took against Quick. I mean, it's just an unbelievably patient play, and they're going to need another healthy dose of him tonight as well.
Bundy, real quick, too, how about the play he makes on the first goal to chip it by Miller instead of carry it? Chips it by, then chases it. Now Miller can't angle him off into the wall because it'd be interference, and then he ends up getting the assist to Cam York on that goal.
Oh, that was a gorgeous play. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
Chip and chase.
Yeah, that's a super-duper play right there. And, and a nice finish by York, too. That was the game-leading goal, I believe, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a huge goal, and that'll be something else for this team to have to try to really keep an eye on tonight is the fact that getting that first goal, do what you can. I always say you can't manufacture it, but you can do the right things to try to play for it without giving any big chances away. But I tell you what, it's a lethal weapon for this team when they get the first goal, and I think that's gonna be paramount again here tonight.
The other thing about Konechny the other night, the other goal that he scored, the later one where he goes back and makes an unbelievable defensive play, just picking it was his Vanadjad's pocket, Jason?
Yeah.
Was, and then he's right back the other way and scores, and that's in the last minute of a period. I mean, that's the kind of goal that you look back, if Flyers do somehow eke their way in, that's the kind of goal you look back and wonder if that maybe turns the season around sometimes.
There's no doubt about it. And again, and where you're at right now with where the schedule is, this is what you have. You have to find hope, and you have to find promise in something. And I think what happened in New York the other night on Broad Street on Broadway was perfect for what this team needed to have happen. Again, a convincing win, a dominant victory, and a lot of dominant play at times. I know it was Jonathan Quick, but again, that's
He's had a good year.
Yeah, he has, but it's not. He's not Shesterkin now, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about 2011 Jonathan Quick. Again, but this has been it's set up for what you want. And I know the Flyers don't control their destiny. There's other things that'll happen, but you can focus, as we said in the open, on what you do as a player, as an individual, that will make your team better.
Yeah, and focus on the 60 minutes ahead today, starting with the first. Stay tuned. We're going to take our last time out here on Flyers Game Day. We'll deliver you the line combinations, any changes from that 4-1 win over the Rangers. We know coaches don't like to change. We'll find out the details on that coming up. Stay tuned. You're listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
Flyers pregame.
And other insurers not available in all states.
This is the Fanatic Flyers pregame show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Back live as the Philadelphia Flyers get set to take on the New Jersey Devils. Open up the final homestand of the year, just a two-gamer. It's the Flyers and Devils tonight. Flyers Caps on Tuesday, and we'll see if the math works out as the Flyers need 2 points tonight. Their destiny is not in their own hands any longer. Islanders earlier today got a point against the New York Rangers, so that third spot in the Metro looks all but gone. It's the battle now with the Penguins, with the Caps, and Detroit for that final wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. Let's get to the line combinations, and they're they're exactly as they were the other night. Poehling, Forster, and Konechny. Bundy, you like that line together, that Poehling, Forster, Konechny line?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you find what works this time of the year. Is Poehling, he's not a first-line guy on a Stanley Cup team, but he's playing really well right now, so why not, right? You're looking for the spark. So that's what I'm saying is that's not ideal for 82 games, but he's playing in that well in the moment with Konechny and Forster. Go for it. I have no problem with it. I like it.
Frost, Tippett, and Brink together. Brink coming off that goal in the last game. Bundy, for the first time in a while, we saw significant play usage and minutes by Sean Couturier, over 16 in the game. And certainly he had a lot of those games where he was down in the 12 and under range for a while there. But getting him back to being able to play those minutes, and I thought he played effectively in that game. And the combination maybe of having Cates to take a little of the defensive responsibility away and add Hathaway to create a little space, I think maybe definitely helped him.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. And there's no doubt that Coots, I thought, again, was good positionally sound. The team played good. And that's why I said we'll see what the other night was at the beginning of this game here tonight. It was a terrific win, but I really think that line, Morgan Frost and Tippett, I need more from.
Agreed.
And because, I mean, these next two games, if you're going to get there, you got to get more out of those two guys.
The fourth line will be Scott Lawton, Joel Farabee, and Cam Atkinson. Atkinson only played about 8 minutes in that last game. We'll see what the usage dictates here. York and Sanheim, no shock there. Sealer and Drysdale, a good rebound from that game where one was a -5 and Sealer, a -6 for Drysdale. Zamula and Johnson, and then it's Sam Ersson and Kakkonen for the New Jersey Devils. Devils without Hughes tonight, but still some weapons over there and a team that will play a very open style. How do you mitigate the open style that they'll play?
Yeah, certainly it's good to have Jack Hughes out of the lineup. That'll help because it'll mitigate what you have to deal with in terms of a really good skill player coming in the zone, finding open players. Heischer's a guy that plays well against the Flyers. You know what? They're just going to play like they did against Toronto the other day. There's nothing on them. They're eliminated. They're 4 points behind the Flyers. But as somebody that has played in this league, and I hadn't been in a spot because I made the playoffs, I would assume when playing those teams that are out, they're going to compete because they're also looking for their own lifeblood to see if they're going to have a job next year.
Right.
So expect a competitive game from a New Jersey team that's quite frankly gone through a lot this year. And they're just trying to find a happy ending to the end of the season for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking that the other night, Jason and I were speculating that perhaps there was something about the way the top teams were playing that was a little more refined, that the Flyers can deal with better than some teams like this who, like you said, don't necessarily have anything to play for, so they just kind of throw it all at you. And I don't know if there's a difference between those two styles of play on the ice or not, but I guess if the Flyers can find a way to bottle that Ranger game and just repeat it, they would. But it's probably not that simple, I guess, from a game-in, game-out basis.
It's not, and again, because you can't. If you could do that, you'd win every single game.
Yeah.
If you played the perfect game, but yeah, I mean, again, it's a matter of what the Flyers do. Having a good start will help. Doing the right things will set the tone. But you want to let the Devils know what kind of game you're going to play tonight. That's going to be the best thing for this Flyers team today is to really lock it down. Tighten it up again. Play playoff hockey, but don't give them time and space, and because that's what they want. If you muck this game up for the Devils, you'll win the hockey game. If you want to freestyle and trade chances, you could lose just as easily.
And this is one when you're in warm-ups, Bundy, and you skate by a guy at the red line when the opposition say, boys, you're going to need the ice bags tonight. We're going to bang the hell out of you tonight. Just because they don't want any part of an ice bath at this point in the season after a game because they're getting banged around.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, they don't want to hurt their wrist for golfing on Thursday.
That's exactly. Team party on Wednesday. Tea time on Tuesday, or Thursday rather. It is the Flyers and the Devils tonight. Two very important points are up for grabs once again for this Flyers team. Bundy, your last thoughts. Like, you look at this game tonight, and you nailed it the other night in that game against the Rangers. What are you looking for right out of the chute?
A good energized start. Do the right things. Do not turn the puck over. If you don't have a play, get it in and establish a forecheck. This is not a world beater you're playing here tonight, but you treat it like a playoff game and you set the tone early. The Flyers will win this game tonight.
All right. It's going to come with a lot of intensity out of the gate to get the win tonight. Tell them this is not a place you want to be tonight when you're playing out the string. It is only 2 games left. It'll be the Capitals on Tuesday, but in front of us, it's the Flyers and the Devils. Stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Todd Fedoruk, they've got the countdown to face off between the Flyers and the Devils coming up. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.